Yeah.
Good morning. This January 7th, 2025 meeting of the Board of Estimates is now called to order. The board continues to meet in a hybrid format. For those here in person, please take a moment to silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. For those attending virtually, if you desire an opportunity to speak, we ask that you keep yourself on mute until the chair recognizes you. When you are called upon, please announce your name and organization and speak loudly and clearly as you present. Before asking the clerk to read the corrections and abstentions, I do want to recognize former council member Kiefer Mitchell is in the house, and delegate, as well as former Mayor Sheila Dixon is also in the house. Appreciate you joining us.
But not on the side with her portrait.
That is true. Madam Mayor, I believe your portrait is over there. At this time, I would ask our clerk, Celeste Amato, for any corrections, additions, and noted abstentions for today's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, everyone. We do have a few corrections to note this morning. We are correcting the following items. SB 2514337. This item is for Baltimore City Information Technology. The Department of Housing and with the Department of Housing and Community Development, it's a memorandum of understanding with the Housing Authority of Baltimore City. Under action start date, we're deleting 12/17/2025. Excuse me, and replacing that date with 1/7/2026. And under background explanation, we are deleting December 17th, 2025, and replacing that date with January 7th, 2026. For SB 2514333, this is a Fifth Amendment to an emergency contract with Garney Companies Incorporated. We are striking the end date and inserting 8/28/2025. Under amount and source, we're striking the amount and inserting $30,387,638.93. And under the action requested, we are striking approve and instead inserting the word note. And I'll just note for context for the public that while these do sound like large changes, this was an emergency notation. The board is not being asked to approve anything. We are simply being notified that the Director of Finance signed off on this expenditure and that the Department of Public Works has completed the associated work. And for SB 2513629, Department of Public Works, partial release of retainage with Spinello Companies for SC number 936R sanitary sewer collection system improvements in the Jones Falls Sewer Shed, Glen Avenue Basin. Under SMBA and D, strike all MBE and WBE participation and insert this state-funded contract. We have no walk-ons to note this morning, and we have no deferrals to note this morning. The following items are being withdrawn from the agenda. SB 2513461 for the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, Emergency Procurement EPR 309 for My Kids Incorporated, $25,660. This item is withdrawn at the request of the agency. SB 2514519, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, Emergency Procurement EPR 310, Redesigning Mines for $26,373.60. This item is withdrawn at the request of the agency. And SB 2514626, BBMR, Memorandum of Understanding, Administrative Office of the Courts for $784,251.03. This item is withdrawn at the request of the agency. We do have some protests and statements to note this morning. SB 2514794 for the Department of Public Works Project Labor Agreement, SC 979, SC 935, SC 1031, and WC 1199, Baltimore DC Metro Building and Construction Trades Council. A statement of opposition has been received from Sean Malone on behalf of the Maryland Minority Contractors Association. And a statement of opposition has been received from Robert Dashiell on behalf of the Baltimore Coalition for Fair and Open Competition. The following items will appear on the non-routine agenda this morning. SB 2514794, Public Works, Construction Capital Project Labor Agreement, SC 979, SC 935, SC 1031, and WC 1199, Baltimore DC Metro Building and Construction Trades Council. SB 2514697 for the Law Department, Gary Washington versus Baltimore Police Department et al., District Court of Maryland, case number 119CV02473 US for $14 million. SB 2514337 for Baltimore City Information Technology, a memorandum of understanding with the Housing Authority of Baltimore City. SB 2514135, Bureau of Procurement, Expenditure of Funds and Unauthorized Procurement with Demo USA Incorporated for $131,856.75. SB 2514132 for the Bureau of Procurement, an increase and renewal for SCON 002743. Locksmith Services for $1,416,666.86. SB 2514324, Unifier for Public Works, an agreement with Atkins Realis USA Incorporated for $11 million. And SB 2514333, Department of Public Works, a Fifth Amendment to emergency contract with Garney Companies Incorporated for $30,387,638.93. We have the following abstentions to note this morning. The Honorable Mayor Brandon M. Scott is abstaining on SB 14265 for the Health Department, the Johns Hopkins University. SB 2514272, Health Department, the Johns Hopkins University. And SB 2514589, Department of Transportation, the Johns Hopkins University. The Honorable President Z. Cohen has no abstentions to note this morning. The Honorable Comptroller Bill Henry is abstaining on all travel requests and travel reimbursements. City Solicitor Ebony Thompson is abstaining on SB 2514516, the Law Department employee travel request. And the Director of Public Works, Matthew Garbark, has no abstentions to note this morning. We also have no votes to record as part of the routine agenda, and that concludes the opening statement, Mr. President. Thank you.
At this time, I ask for a motion to approve and adopt the opening statement.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The opening statement has been adopted. I now direct board members' attention to the memorandum from my office dated January 7th, 2026, identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items together with any corrections, additions, abstentions, and no votes that have been noted by the clerk. I will entertain a motion to approve all items contained on the routine agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The routine agenda items have been adopted. Seeing no further questions, we will now move on to non-routine agenda items. The first item on the non-routine agenda is a request to approve a project labor agreement with the Baltimore DC Metro Building and Construction Trades Council under SB 2514794. On behalf of the Department of Public Works, we have Deputy Director Alan Robinson. Director Robinson, the floor is yours, sir.
Good morning and Happy New Year to the board. I want to say good morning to the Honorable Mayor Scott, Council President Z. Cohen. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of this morning. On behalf of the Department of Public Works, we are looking to enter we are requesting that the board approves the project labor agreement with the Baltimore DC Metro Building Construction Trades Council. This period of agreement is based on board approval. Right now, there are no transaction funds that will be moved, and the board is requested to approve this agreement so that we can, I'm going to actually read a little bit about what the project labor agreement is and what our understanding of how it will be utilized within the city and its benefits to the city. So if you will allow me. This project labor agreement, the first for Baltimore City, is an agreement between the city and the Baltimore DC Metro Building and Construction Trades Council, and it only applies to 4 DPW utility projects. We mentioned SC 979, which is the Dundalk Pumping Station Rehabilitation for FY26 for approximately $31 million. We have SC 935, Sparrows Point Alternate Outfall. This is also for FY26 at approximately $31 million. WC 1199 Ashburton Pumping Station improvements, estimated value is between 60 to 70 million. And SC 1031 Quad Avenue Pumping Station rehabilitation. The estimated value on this is between 6 to 8 million. The purpose of the PLA is twofold. First, to develop and grow a skilled workforce here in Baltimore City to be able to perform the vital work necessary to preserve and maintain our infrastructure. There are millions of dollars worth of projects within Baltimore City that require a skilled workforce. These range from city utility projects to the Frederick Douglass Tunnel to the New King Bridge. Having a skilled workforce is vital to our progress. Second, there has been extensive discussion by this board about reducing cost overruns and change orders. This PLA is going to ensure that we have highly skilled and trained workers to perform the needed work. If we pay more upfront in higher bids, there will be fewer change orders, thus reducing the costs in the long run. Under this agreement, winning contractors and their subcontractors, with some exceptions, will be required to sign a letter of assent agreeing to the terms of the PLA. These include abiding by the collective bargaining agreements for certain types of work and participating in apprenticeship programs that are approved by the U.S. Department of Labor. These are also local hiring requirements. All this being said, we know this is a new and different way of doing business. This PLA contains specific provisions to address small, minority, and women-owned businesses, as well as ensuring workers are hired locally. The agreement is crystal clear that the MBE and WBE goals are applicable to these 4 projects. The MBE WBE program will apply as within any other project in the city. Additionally, small, minority, and women-owned businesses are exempt from the apprenticeship requirements, which can admittedly be a major cost for a small business. Further, work performed by subcontractors is valued at approximately $500,000 or less and is also exempt from the apprenticeship requirements. In terms of local hiring, this agreement says that 20% of the journey level and 50% of the apprenticeship work hours shall be performed by Baltimore City residents. Additionally, new apprentices shall be city residents. This PLA does nothing to require contractors to lay off or change their existing staff and workforce. The hiring provisions only apply to new workers and does not require contractors to hire someone who is not qualified. And I just wanted to enter that into the record, sir.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Are there any questions for the deputy from the board? Hearing and seeing none. If you could just, you mentioned this in the presentation, but just, again, I'd like to hear in really clear terms commitment around local hiring within this PLA, as well as all of our MBW, WBE requirements. You touched on both these things, but could you be very specific about how this project labor agreement does or does not address local hire and the commitment to hire minority and women-owned contractors?
So, as stated before, this is a commitment to hire local employees. We want citizens, residents, business owners here in the city to be a participant in this. It is talking about prevailing wage. So we are not changing the requirements on that. This is still subject to the prevailing wage provisions. This is also guaranteeing that WBE and MBE goals are per each contract as each task is awarded and each contract is awarded. Those WBE and MBE goals will be assessed and applied to each individual contract. So the Office of Small Business and minority businesses will have the opportunity, SMBAT will have the opportunity to review each one of these, and it will be presented to the board each and every time we are moving forward with any of these contracts for review.
Understood. And so when we think about enforcement and how to make sure all of our requirements are truly honored, it'll just be the same enforcement as any other contract that we do with any other firm?
It will be the same enforcement as any other contract, but we want to make sure that this is successful, so we will be making sure that we are paying attention to this, very closely to make sure that we are adhering to the provisions here.
Understood. Other questions from the board? Hearing and seeing none, we have received 2 statements of opposition on this first item. First, we have opposition from Mr. Robert DeShiel on behalf of the Baltimore Coalition for Fair and Open Competition. Mr. DeShiel, if you could come up, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. President, members
Morning.
of the board. Morning. My name is Robert Fulton DeShiel, and in the inimitable words of one of the former frequent flyers, Mr. Arnold Jolivet, I'm really not going to be long.
We will hold you to that, sir. Be careful what you say in front of this board.
First of all, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak on behalf of my client. I'm not going to reiterate all the things that I said in the letter, but I am going to make one point, and it's going to be reiterated, I think, in a few different ways. I don't think the PLA is legal because I think it's mandatory. Now, I know that it's been represented to the board that anybody can bid, but that's a Hopkins choice. Yes, if you're a union shop contractor, you can bid, or if you're a contractor who's willing to become union shop for this project, you could bid, but if you choose neither, you can't. And that's because it's reasonable to assume that anybody who bids has an expectation of being actually awarded. So why would you spend the time and money of bidding a contract if you're either not already a union shop or you're not willing to become a party to the PLA? So there's a whole universe of contractors that I represent who are ineligible to bid this contract because they don't want to go through the exercise of bidding and not being awarded the contract. That's number one. And I think under the Balfour case, as I said previously, that the fact that it's mandatory and not merely an evaluation factor renders it illegal on its face. Secondly, and these are just a few points, I heard the deputy director, I think it was, say that no contractor would be required to replace the current workforce. That's great, but I don't see that in the agreement. I don't see that provision in the agreement, and that is vital. Thirdly, it affords union shop bidders an unfair competitive advantage over open shop bidders because union shop bidders have foremen and supervisors already familiar with and accustomed to union work rules and thereby able to provide more efficient supervision, particularly when open shop employees are hired. In other words, the union shop people already have the foreman and supervisory staff in place. They're already familiar with the terms of the collective bargaining agreements. Even if I'm a bidder who's willing to enter a PLA, I don't have any of that. That puts me at a significant competitive advantage, particularly if the goal of the PLA, as you indicate, is to improve efficiency, is to better ensure timely completion of the work. Supervision is the key. So on the one hand, you provided an advantage to a company that already has it in place, and on the other hand, the bidding, open shop has to bid without that in place. That's a competitive advantage, which I think under the charter and even under any other laws or regulations would be improper. Thirdly, it provides no mechanism for the city to monitor the operation of the union hiring halls to ensure that referrals are made solely on the basis of employee qualifications. Now, what do I mean? I'm a union hiring hall. I know my members. I know who they work for because they work for contractors that I have contracts with. Sitting next to me is a person I don't know. He's an open shop employee. I don't know what he's done. I don't know what qualifications he has. So how does that open shop, who am I going to refer? Who am I going to refer first? I'm going to refer the one that I know. So therefore, given that natural inclination, it would seem that if you really want to achieve, you got to have some mechanism in the agreement to monitor, to make sure that that anti-discrimination provision in the PLA is really enforced, is really adhered to. Because without monitoring, I'm going to do what's natural. I'm going to refer to ones that I know, because I know them, because I know they have the qualifications, because they already work for companies that I have contracts with. You have to have monitoring. Pardon my voice, I'm recovering from a lot of things.
2025.
Yeah. It provides no mechanism to ensure that the qualifications of open shop employees are even judged on the same terms as the qualifications of union employees. It provides no mechanism that union shop employers are afforded no priority or preference in the referral of people. So I've got two companies that are both asking for employees. One is I already have a collective bargaining agreement with. One is brand new, and I only got this limited engagement. I got one employee qualified to do that, to respond to that referral. Who gets it? Who gets it? I mean, let's be real about this. The one who gets it is the one who I already had a contract with. We've got, that priority is not permitted. You're not permitted to choose who to refer or who to refer to based upon whether or not they have a collective bargaining agreement with you. So that too has to be monitored. There's no mechanism in the PLA for monitoring that. And finally, and maybe not most importantly, but finally, it provides unlawful financial assistance to unions by requiring the payment of contributions which the unions will not use to benefit all employees, because as non-members, open shop employees are not eligible for union benefits. That's illegal. See, if this contract requires two payments, one is based on Davis-Bacon, which already includes the economic value of union benefits, because the Secretary of Labor draws and determines the prevailing wage from an evaluation of all the wages paid under union contracts in the region. So it's already there in the wage scale. This agreement says I got to pay it again. I have to now pay money into the union funds. But guess what? The union funds don't provide any benefits to anybody but union members. So what's going to happen to that money? What's going to happen to the money that doesn't go into the union funds because the non-union members don't have accounts? They don't have any way of, there's no benefit to them. So what's the union going to do with that money? Regardless of what they do, that's an illegal contribution under the National Labor Relations Act. It is illegal for an employer to provide financial assistance to a union except under a valid collective bargaining agreement. City Solicitor knows that. I'm done, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeShiel. You receive a B- on being quick. We appreciate you. Any questions from the board? Hearing none. We also have opposition from Mr. Sean Malone on behalf of the Maryland Minority Contractors Association. Mr. Malone, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning. On behalf of the Maryland Minority Contractors Association, my name is Sean Malone of Harris, Jones & Malone, a Baltimore-based law firm for 26 years in this city. At the University of Baltimore Law School, as the esteemed solicitor will confirm, we are not taught how to count. We are taught how to read contracts, but we're not taught how to count. What I have learned over 25 years of doing this business is to be able to count to at least 5. And I can count to 5 and I can count to 3. So I know where this is headed. And I'm not going to continue the argument that we have made for over 20 years in this city that this is not beneficial to the companies that we represent. Our companies have told you that. You've decided to move in a direction, and we will see. And I respect the decision. I respect the elected members of this board and your judgment. So, but what I will point out is that in reviewing the contract that was entered into, that we weren't consulted on in advance. We weren't provided an opportunity to give input, so we have to do it here. There are significant issues that I think should be addressed if you're going to move forward and when you move forward. First off, this is an agreement between the building trades and the city. And there is a clause in this agreement, the termination clause, that indicates that the agreement can only be amended by mutual consent or terminated by mutual consent of the parties. I've never heard of that, because the city usually has a clause in a contract that allows it and retains its authority to terminate an agreement for convenience or for cause. It's a simple addition. This isn't, I'm not putting a poison pill in. It's not beyond me to do so, as the president would tell you, but I'm not doing that here. It's a simple contracting principle to protect government. I come from the solicitor's office. I've drafted contracts. It is essential in each contract. Now, it could be said, we can do that at the contracting level, but that's not who this contract is between. And why this is important is as follows. If after your first project, the AFL-CIO doesn't deliver on the promises that they've made, you are stuck on the next project doing it again with the PLA. If at the return of the RFP, you don't get enough bids, you can rebid, you don't have to award, but you have to rebid it to the same body of builders under the PLA. You have no recourse. You can say to them, will you let me out of the contract? But why would we put ourselves in that position? A simple addition to this contract that allows you to terminate for cause or convenience is standard with procurement procedures in the city and contracting procedures. And I don't think anyone can deny that. And it protects us. And here's, at the end of the day, and I hope our brothers in labor can produce, our brothers and sisters in labor can produce what they've said, and that'll be great. But if they can't, you protect the taxpayer. I think, additionally, what I want to point out is under the wage and benefits agreements, and I've probably negotiated more labor contracts than anybody in this room. And I've been doing it for 25 years, and I have great respect for the people who sit across from the table from me. And I give them credit for this clause. It's remarkable. They have a clause in this contract that says the city will pay the highest, we already have a prevailing wage rate that determines what the wage and benefits are for all construction contracts in the city. It's a survey done on the region, and it's set in this region to ensure that workers are paid fairly and the city gets a fair deal. But what this clause says is the city will pay the highest of the local, the state, the federal, or any wage in a union contract that applies to this contract. The highest. That guarantees an increased cost. It doesn't make sense. Why do we have the clause? Just abide by the prevailing wage clause. It's a simple change. It doesn't hurt this agreement, but it protects us, and it's fair to workers, it's fair to contractors, and it's fair to city taxpayers. There is in this agreement a dispute resolution clause, and it is necessary because it's a new way of doing business. There will be disputes between contractors and laborers about the administration of this agreement. But what we have decided to do is to send those disputes to arbitration. As an attorney who works in this field, arbitration is expensive. And you don't have to ask me, just take a look at the last arbitration the city entered with the IFF. It's expensive. You pay $3,000 to $4,000 a day for the arbitrator. This agreement, the clause in of itself isn't adequately drafted. It doesn't determine who pays the cost, what the cost share is. It doesn't provide for a way of who's going to pick what arbitrators by agreement of the parties. Trust me, I've done a lot of arbitrations. I never agree with opposing counsel on which arbitrator we want. But there's a simple solution I bring you. I'm not just pointing out a problem. Send it to your labor commissioner's office. They can hear the dispute between the contractor and the union the next day at the top of the Benton building and resolve it and let this move forward. If you go to an arbitrator, you have to wait for them to schedule the hearing. You have to wait for the decision, and you incur additional costs. It's costly, and it has to be taken into effect when bidding on these contracts. The dispute resolution in this contract is needed, but not needed in the fashion it's drafted. Mr. DeShields has addressed the hiring hall rules. But I would suggest to you the hiring hall creates another problem. This agreement, the AFL-CIO understands our hiring hall rules. I'm certain not many people in this room do understand them. Why isn't it spelled out in this agreement clearly in a consistent fashion of how the hiring from these halls will work? And contrary to what's been asserted, there is nothing in this clause that allows a contractor to bring its current workforce onto the job. What the hiring provision of this contract clearly states is all hiring must happen from this hall. Now, yes, under federal law, they have to refer, this isn't a give to the city, it's the law. If a non-union worker walks in, they have to be referred without discrimination. But that doesn't mean they don't have to abide by the rules, which means seniority. And a non-union worker has no seniority in that hall. They'll get referred eventually. But as a contractor walking in, I can't bring my workforce on that job. I have to hire out of the hall. I may get some of my workers back, I may not. And look, we all suffered a real painful event on Sunday night when the Ravens lost in the last minutes of the game. I'm sorry to bring it up again, Mr. Mayor, but we at least know that the team that walked on that field was the team that Baltimore had. We hired them, we trained them, we practiced, and we sent them on the field. It would have been a much worse result if we had sent a team to a city from the South on the field. What you're asking our contractors to do is to walk onto a job, bond it, guarantee performance with workers they don't know. And by the way, minority contractors are being asked to bring in workers who don't work for them and don't believe in their business model. And I don't need to explain the difficulties to this panel of supervising people you don't know who may not want to work for you. That said, it can be fixed. You can simply put a provision that if a local contractor or an in-state contractor has a workforce, they will be allowed to bring them onto the work site and not have to pay union dues, which they can't require, or into a benefit plan to which those employees will not benefit. Additionally, it is not a legal issue, but it is a moral issue. This city houses the most returning citizens from incarceration in the state. And we have worked for years to find them jobs with dignity, and provide opportunities and training. This agreement is silent to that. Now, the Associated Builders and Contractors and Maryland Minority Contractors Association have an acclaimed program called Project Jumpstart. Why aren't we requiring the AFL-CIO to do the same thing? It's simple, and I believe it aligns with their values. Put it in the contract. Have them establish the program to train returning citizens and get them onto these 4 jobs. It's not a big request, but you have all the leverage in this negotiation. Utilize it. There is a commitment for local hiring. It's woefully low. 20% of your skilled laborers, which includes laborers, will be from the city. If you bring on 5 laborers, you don't have to have any skilled craftsmen. They account for that. That's all thrown into one pot. It's not 27% by craft. It's 20% total. We are, in essence, put it in reverse. We are saying, under this project labor agreement, contractors can bring into the city 80% of the workforce on over $140 million worth of work. That's not a good return for us. We can do better, and we can ask for more. There is no commitment to build a training center in this city. In East Baltimore, ABC has invested and is training right now citizens in this city. Look, you are giving the AFL-CIO a tremendous opportunity. There are a couple on the borders of the city. I think Leona has one. I believe the electricians have one. Why are we asking the other skilled trades to establish a training center in this city, a multi-craft training center, so that our citizens don't have to go to Rosedale? They don't have to go out to Essex to be trained. It's difficult. We have transportation issues in the city. Use this opportunity to provide that benefit. And finally, while there is accountability and tracking to the contractor, in this agreement, there is no tracking or accountability for the AFL-CIO. If they don't perform on job 1, you are bound to go to job 2 with them, and job 3, and job 4. You don't have to track it. You don't have to require it. I negotiated the community benefits agreement on Port Covington. And in that agreement, we had to pay for a monitor. We had to report quarterly on each of the things we promised. there is no accountability. There is no requirement. And why? You have the ability to put that into this agreement. So, look, I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate your time. I did not promise to be short like Mr. DeShields. But at a time in this country, I will close with this, at a time in this country where the federal government is removing MBE programs from their bidding and saying that they won't do them, and the state has removed them from any state project in which there is federal dollars, the opportunities for our contractors are dwindling. And in a country where people are emboldened to make choices against individuals based on their gender and their race, our contractors are struggling to find work on private contracts. And I understand this is a smaller portion of all the work that comes out, and that point's not lost on me, Mr. Mayor. But I would tell you, this does not help the cause of developing our businesses. This doesn't help. I urge this, I'm not asking you, look, if you believe me and you want to go my way, I will thank you. But I know you want to move forward in this direction. But I don't think requesting a delay for 2 weeks to improve this contract and protect this city, consistent with what we do in other contracts, is an unreasonable request. And with that, I'd submit.
Thank you, Mr. Malone. The mayor has informed me that you are on St. Mary's time.
Thank you.
As opposed to Goucher Gophers, where we are
That's right.
expedient in our words.
We didn't learn to count down there either, did we?
Indeed. Mr. Mayor?
Well, first, Mr. President, based on the history of the elected officials from Goucher, being short is not one of the things I would say that they excel in. But what I would... I'm not doing that with Bill today. Good morning, Mr. Malone.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
I think what I just want to say, and just be very clear about this, and I know you know,
Yes.
but I have to say it. We know what's going on at the federal level, and that we know no one here, in particular me, is going to do things that I know will purposely hurt our minority business
That's what I
community. In fact, as you know, I wouldn't be able to go home if that was the case.
I know that, certainly.
And you know that this board, the council president wasn't here yet, but this board approved unbundling and all these things
Yep.
strictly designed to help that business community. This is a family disagreement, right? And that's what good families do. They have open, honest discussion about things and figure out ways to work together. And we will do that continuously. But this board is not setting out to do that. We don't believe that this is what the contract does. And we will continue to support ways for our minority women business community to not just exist, but grow and thrive in Baltimore, in spite of all of the things happening at the federal level. Because like some other places, we do not care what the folks at the federal level say when it comes to we shouldn't have MBE programs. We shouldn't be doing these things. We're going to do it, and we're going to do it until the cows come home because it's the right thing to do. That's it for me, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before asking the city, Mr. Turner, to respond, I did want to just, one of the points that you made, and I'd love to have someone from the building trades come up. I see Mr. Baker is here. There's a question about whether there's to be a training center, which you raised, Mr. Malone. Mr. Baker, could you come on up? Is there a training center that is being built among the building trades here in Baltimore?
Good morning, Mr. President. I appreciate the opportunity to address. In respect to Mr. Malone suggests, yes, our carpenters local, the Eastern Atlantic States Carpenters.
Sir, if you
I'm
could,
sorry.
I apologize, if you could identify yourself.
On over to the side.
Sure.
I don't need you to talk.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ray Baker. I'm the Maryland Director for the Baltimore D.C. Building Trades Council. It is a hard task to move Sean Malone to the side in Baltimore City, so I appreciate the support of the Board of Estimates in getting me to do so. With respect to the training centers, I appreciate appreciate Mr. Malone acknowledging the LIUNA as well as our IBEW apprenticeship training facilities in the city. The Carpenters are currently in the process of acquiring a facility near Cross Street Market in Baltimore City, where they will also be developing training facilities, because to Mr. Malone's point, we respond to the need for having training facilities here in Baltimore City. So as we continue to expand and have more of our affiliates and locals be able to put their footprint in Baltimore City, we believe that this opportunity will allow us the chance to do just that. And I appreciate you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to share that publicly.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Appreciate that. Before turning back to Mr. Turner, I did want to give.
I have a question for Sean.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry about that, Madam Mayor. We will get to you in just one moment. Comptroller Henry has a question for Mr. Malone.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning.
Good morning.
You raised some interesting points, and I wanted to check in on a couple of them.
Yes, sir.
Well, one of them I'm going to have to, two of them I'm going to have to ask the city about. But your assertion that it would be difficult for a non-union shop to use all of its existing workforce, because even if its existing workforce came to the union hall to be referred, since they would not have seniority, other people in the hall would get referred first. And I'm not a contractor, so please bear with me if this is like basic stuff. But when an employee is referred from the hall to the employer, do they have to hire them?
You know, what's not in this agreement is, and this is why I think it's important in this section to flush it out, is the clear hiring hall rules. And they do vary by local, and they do vary by craft.
You mean, so, I'm sorry, so is there anywhere where if an employee gets referred from the hall to the employer, that employer must hire them?
They have to have a reason to reject them.
And could the reason be, this is not the guy I know and I'm used to working with?
I mean, no.
Okay.
I don't believe that's accurate.
Okay.
I don't believe it to be the case, but I would say that the hiring hall rules and what this contract says is refer to the local union for their rules. And they're subject to change. And the contract anticipates that. And they can change them as they need be. What I'm saying is, why don't we spell them out in the agreement so it's clear? And you have a very good question. And what I would say is, we spell out in this contract, those are questions that can be resolved, that an employee can be rejected for any reason, any legally permissible reason, and that or that we can bring our workforce on. It does not say anywhere in this agreement that you can bring your workforce to. So Robert Harrington, who has 100 workers, can't just show up with them that day. He has to send them to the hiring hall and hope he gets some of them back.
Okay, well, so when the deputy director was giving the summary of the program, he was pretty clear that we're not requiring people to not be able, we're not prohibiting people from using their existing workforce. So you're saying you just want it more explicit in the agreement that that is in fact the case.
Yeah, look, I'm a dyslexic kid, but I've read this contract 8 times. Nowhere in this agreement does it say that a contractor can bring its existing workforce on the job. What it says is you have to go through the hiring hall. And if that is the intent, then we share that intent, and we should simply put it into clear language in the contract so everyone's clear. If a non-union contractor bids on the job, they can bring their existing workforce onto the job and not have to go through the hiring hall or pay into a benefits plan that doesn't benefit them. It's fair and it's reasonable.
Okay.
And it takes a simple change.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Am I good?
I'm going to ask Madam Mayor, in deference to her, to come up and provide a statement. Madam Mayor, if you could keep it to 5 minutes or less.
I'll break the 20 after the meeting.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Controller, and I'll be less than 5 minutes because I want to echo Sean and Robert DeShiel's comments about PLAs. But I also want you to take in perspective, since I've been involved in the construction industry over the last 10 years or more, what I find is that Maryland is an open shop. Unfortunately, we used to, many, many years ago, and I use them as example, decades ago, were a union state and a union city. We are not now. And if you go, it took me an hour to get down here. Normally, it's a 15-minute ride from my house in Southwest Baltimore, Hunting Ridge. It took me an hour because of all the roads and the construction. And if you look at the infrastructure and the trucks that are out there, because I do that, I look at the trucks, I look at who's doing the work. The bulk of those trucks, if they are union, are not even from the state of Maryland. The workers come in from Pennsylvania, New York, et cetera. We provided you, Mr. President, when we met a month or so, several months ago, ABC, the Maryland Coalition, a list of all the companies, construction companies in Baltimore, Baltimore City in particular, and the surrounding region, as well as where our employees are, which is in Baltimore City. That's not the case. So I understand the process and what you're trying to do, but it's not going to, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, minority companies will be eliminated. I'm struggling with that currently with the Key Bridge project, where those companies that try to go through the process and fill out the documentations to be certified by Kiewit are not on the job. So it's really important to take a look at what those issues are that have been raised, and also to consider not approving this PLA. So was that less than 5 minutes?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
3.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will also note for the record, not to do with you, I'm wearing a mask because I have a cold. I tested for COVID this morning. I do not have it. So just for, well, as I said, I tested for COVID and I do not have it.
No, I'm kidding.
I got the sniffles, Madam Solicitor. In any case, Mr. Turner, if you could come on back up. I'm sorry, Mr. Robinson, if you could come on back up. I played this man in basketball once, and he elbowed me pretty hard, and ever since then, I tend to get his name wrong. Indeed. Mr. Robinson, if you could respond, specifically, I'd like to hone in on one of the things that Mr. Malone said, which, and I'm slightly paraphrasing, but is that if folks fail to meet their commitments, we're stuck. Could you address that particular concern? If folks who enter into agreement with the city based on this PLA end up not fulfilling their obligations, is the city stuck?
So, again, Alan Robinson, Deputy Director for the Department of Public Works. I'm going to defer to the director for that because that's more of a legal question in writing of the agreement. But, Director.
Mr. President, I would,
Director Grabart?
if Mike Mullen from the Law Department is here, he might be able to answer that question. That might be more of a legal question. I'll defer to the solicitor if she would like that.
Yeah, we can have Mike come up, who's worked extensively on it. Yes, sir.
Oh, good. I have questions for
Good morning, Michael Mullen with the Law Department.
Morning.
The answer to your question is that the PLA agreement as drafted requires all of the MBWB rules to be included, so we will be issuing our standard city contract procurement documents from DPW, which will have the percentages and the participation requirements in it, and also give SMBAD all of the authority that it already has under the city code. The city code section on SMBAD and MBE, WBE is specifically referenced in the PLA and incorporated.
Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. Mr. Henry?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to always think of you as William now, but that's, and I'm good with that. When we were having the PLA explained to us, one of the things that we were told was that it's in the PLA that we can remove a project from the PLA if we determine a need to do so.
Yes, there's no guarantee that we'll do all of them or
Okay.
even any of them. They could all be pulled.
Right. So if they can all be removed, then if the first one did not go well, we could just not do the next 3.
That's correct.
Okay, so, all right. The other question I had was Mr. Malone raised the question of why are we going to arbitration and not just letting the labor commissioner do that kind of decision-making when it comes to potential controversy. Is there, like, did we consider that?
I really can't speak for the Labor Commissioner, but my understanding is that the Labor Commissioner wouldn't have jurisdiction there because the dispute would be between the contractor and the union. And it would not be, the city would not be a party to that dispute. So that is why I believe the arbitration clause was placed in there, because that's what is standard in a PLA agreement.
Okay. So he's not party. Mr. DeShields raised questions about union dues being able to be used for a workforce that was not entirely union members, and claimed that was a violation of federal labor law.
I am not able to answer that question. We do have outside counsel that can be reached if that question needs to be asked of him.
Okay.
We did hire outside counsel on that. My understanding is that the PLA does require a non-union company to pay into these dues and these requirements, yes. Whether that is, since we approved it, I don't believe it is illegal. Let's put it that way.
Since who approved it?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, could you repeat what you said?
What I'm saying is that I believe that the PLA requires those to be paid, but it is not illegal to do that.
Okay. All right. And you have to. Okay, that's what I got. Thank you.
And Comptroller Henry. Mr. Mayor?
Sorry, it's been a while since I did that. And I'm wearing a mask because he's sick and I just got over kid germs in my household. My question, I have no questions for you, Mr. Mullen. For me, Mr. President, I think that a few things, and while you know I love Madam Mayor dearly, I think I just had to point out for just a record that while what she said is an issue that I know everyone in this room wants to work on when it comes to seeing Pennsylvania tags or Virginia or wherever, or New Jersey on work sites here in Baltimore. We know that a lot of those are federal or state ones. They're not ones that are controlled by this body. But we know that that has happened in the past on city projects. I know because I worked on them, right? Whether it was Key Highway, townhouses, or Lexington Terrace, none of those projects actually had PLAs on them. I saw that every single day from the age of 14 until 22, right before I came here to City Hall. And what we have to collectively do is to keep working to make sure that we do not have that happening more so and less so, as much as we possibly can, to make sure that our residents and our businesses are doing the things that we want to have happen here, and helping to grow. I know I've had conversations with folks about that, helping to grow some of the industries that we know we're going to need, so that those things don't have to go outside, because there is no one here that can do it. That is it for me, Mr. President, and I make a motion to approve.
Before you do that, I see some unreadiness from Comptroller Henry.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. President and Mr. Mayor. I still had questions. They just weren't for Mr. Mullen.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Can we bring Mr. Baker back up?
Yes. Mr. Baker, come on back.
Good morning.
Good morning again.
I wanted to check in on Mr. Malone's question about why the unions couldn't do something like the Project Jumpstart, where there was a purposeful pipeline with returning citizens. And I thought I remembered that there was something like that in existing apprenticeship programs. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Happily, Comptroller. And again, for the record, my name is Ray Baker, the Maryland Director for the Baltimore, D.C. Building Trades. We have a program that we have, our nonprofit arm in the building trades is called Construction Trades Workforce Initiative, CTWI. We've been grateful to have even partnered with the Mayor's Office of Employment Development. We run routinely a program called Raising the Bar. Raising the Bar is an apprenticeship readiness program, and we have a 70% placement rate of those who complete our program who are then admitted into our apprenticeship programs. We do seek out and find and put into our program a number of returning citizens. We have made up in our workforce a number of returning citizens. In fact, there was a young man who asked me, is it okay that I spent some time, as we say in West Baltimore, sitting down, right? And I said, well, you won't be the first person that sat down. Now get up and come work with us.
Right.
And so with respect to what Mr. Malone is saying, we appreciate everybody in the city who's working to employ returning citizens. And we want it known for the record that we are doing our part, pulling our share, and the program Raising the Bar is the place that I would direct our attention to. And we are excited to start our new cohort for Raising the Bar February 6th here in Baltimore City of a new cohort of trainees that we'll put through. And again, projects like this allow us to replicate that cohort more and more and expand the number of people we can have in that, expanding the number of those returning citizens that Mr. Malone was concerned about and that I imagine all of us in the city are concerned about.
Thank you. And I had one other question for the solicitor, if that's okay. Sure. In reference to Mr. Malone's assertion that there's no provision in the agreement for the city to terminate for convenience or cause, I understand from talking to Mr. Mullen that we can just remove individual projects, but I was kind of curious about the assertion that we always have that, and I do know that there is a policy of that for city leases, that we always put something in there to make sure we can get out of it if we don't have the money to keep going anymore. Do we do that with all other agreements?
I wouldn't say all, but when we're looking at other PLAs, that is consistent, and we want to highlight that PLAs are not new, although it's new to Baltimore, it is not new.
Right.
And these are legal. And we looked at that, and we retained outside counsel, and we evaluated for that. So while it's not in all, that is something that's consistent with PLAs, and Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that is something that you looked at.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
That's it, Mr. President.
Thanks, Comptroller. Sir, if you would like to speak, you will have 2 minutes.
I got less than that. So. Good afternoon, or good morning still. My name is Barrett Tucker with Ellen Myers. I'd like to address one thing perfectly clear regards to benefits and dues. When a non-union company employees who already have their own benefits, their own health care, their own pension plan, their own 401k plans, and then they are signed up with the union, they pay union dues and benefits, and they pay twice. They pay their own core benefits and health care, et cetera, and they pay the union health care benefits and dues. So the taxpayers of Baltimore City are getting hit twice. The expense of the job goes up. So I just want to make that perfectly clear, because employers of minority contractors and non-union companies will not supersede their benefits to the union. Okay, so that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hearing and seeing no other questions from the board before honoring the request for a vote, I will briefly say I appreciate all the folks coming out today, making your voice heard in front of this board. Deeply appreciate the commitment that everyone has in this room to a stronger Baltimore. I've said this a lot, Mayor said this a lot, I'm going to keep saying it. This is a moment where Baltimore is winning. We saw the least amount of homicides we've had since 1970 this last year. We are seeing remarkable reductions in all crime categories. This is a moment where we all got to work together and we all got to grow the pot or the pie. It is extremely important that commitments to hire minority contractors are honored, that commitments to local hire, actually making sure Baltimoreans get the work, are honored. That has been a legitimate concern for many years before I got into politics, before I came to Baltimore. And so folks are going to be watching very closely how folks perform on this PLA. Again, I appreciate everybody who's come out, who testified, who's wearing the shirts. I appreciate the commitment to expanding the pie to more opportunity for folks to get work in our city. If we do not grow in this moment where we are winning on the number one issue that has bedeviled our city for a very long time, which is violent crime, if we cannot expand the amount of people, union and non-union, that are getting work in our city, shame on all of us. This is a moment. It's an opportunity. It's not, in my mind, the sky will not fall with this agreement. And again, the expectations are very, very high. With that, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Just to be clear, this is a motion to approve this item. Do it again, just for
So moved.
the record.
Second.
All right. All those in favor of approving this item, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. This item is approved. The next item on the non-routine agenda is from the Law Department under SB 2514697. This is a request to approve a settlement agreement and release with Gary Washington, who claimed that he was wrongfully convicted of an incident that occurred on December 27, 1986. On behalf of the Law Department, we have Chief Solicitor Justin Conroy. Mr. Conroy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, board members. This is a settlement agreement for litigation brought by plaintiff Gary Washington. As the president noted, Mr. Washington was convicted of a 1986 shooting. He was convicted based on the testimony of a 12-year-old who observed the shooting. At trial, that was the only witness, the 12-year-old who observed the shooting, who identified the plaintiff, did not allege any wrongdoing by any BPD officers. There was no physical evidence, no weapon was found. The plaintiff was found guilty in 1987, served 36 years in prison while maintaining his innocence. In 1996, he hired, or the Innocence Project, I guess, hired investigators. They interviewed the 12-year-old witness, who at that point recanted, said that he could not identify the shooter, and said for the first time that BP officers at the time threatened to separate him from his mother if he didn't cooperate. That ultimately resulted in years of back and forth, culminating in a 2018 granting of a writ of actual innocence because of this recantation, and plaintiff was released from jail after 31 years. Plaintiff brought suit. We defended the lawsuit vigorously for several years. We actually won the case on a motion for summary judgment, which means that we won the case on the law. Plaintiff appealed to the Fourth Circuit. The Fourth Circuit remanded the case, saying that the court erred and the case was set for trial. Based on the unreliability of the detective's testimony at this point due to their advanced age, due to the recanting witness, which was the reason the plaintiff was released from prison, we felt at this juncture prior to trial was the best time to settle the case. And so for that reason, we negotiated pretty aggressively and got a settlement value that we think is the best deal for the city and resolves the matter. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those, obviously.
What institutional lessons has the city identified from this case, particularly given the age of conviction and the challenges presented during litigation?
So that's a great question.
I'll answer.
I will turn to Mr. Mayor.
I think, Mr. President, as you know, we're in a federal consent decree. We know that even though at this point I was a mere 2 years old, had just celebrated my second Christmas, but we have come a long way. First of all, of making sure that we do a much better job of hiring and keeping folks that should be employed as police officers versus those who may have questionable character. That's the first and most important thing. And as we continue to reform the department, when you think about the policies and practices, the checks and balances that have been put into place, the technology that has been put into place, now all of those things, from training, the training reforms, how the things have to be verified, and also it's a different time and place when it comes to how a case is turned over and packaged and given to the state's attorney, and the verification in many different ways. We know that 2026 is, not 1986. We still have a long way to go. We're going to continue to do that, and I think that this is another example, especially for the solicitor and myself, of why the work of the consent decree is so important, why the reform is so important, and how it goes alongside our ability to reduce crime and violence in the city. And you don't have to be separate, because these are learning lessons of what can happen when we don't or didn't do things the right way.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Other questions from the board? Hearing and seeing none, this is a particularly painful case for the city. Any loss of finances for Baltimore at a time where we're stretched is tough, but more importantly, the loss of this individual's freedom and the time that he spent in incarceration. Mr. Washington lost decades of his life to a conviction that should never have happened. This settlement is both an acknowledgement of that profound injustice and our city's responsibility to provide him the means to move forward, as well as a reminder that oversight of our law enforcement agencies matters, as the mayor indicated. While we have made progress in recent years, and certainly since the time of this conviction, we must remain vigilant to guard against regressing to the practices that produced these tragic results. With that, I'll entertain a motion from the board.
So moved.
Second.
And this is a motion to approve, sorry, I'm doing this poorly. This is a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. The item is approved. The next item on the non-routine agenda is a request is a request to approve a memorandum of understanding with the Housing Authority of Baltimore City to address the digital divide among older adults in Baltimore City. This is under SB 2514337. On behalf of BSIT, we have Director Layla Lehman. Director Lehman, I'm sorry.
We have the
She is not here.
No, she is not here.
Ms. Kenya?
I am.
The floor is, I'm sorry.
Good morning. I am Kenya Osley, Director of Broadband Digital Equity, Division of BSIT, and we do have a PowerPoint for you here this morning to ask you to please approve an MOU between BSIT and HABC. Back in 2023, we received a grant from the Health Resources and Services Administration, HRSA, to extend resources to older adults. See, what we know, and during that time, digital equity was brand new, and we focused a lot on young people. But what we know is that older adults are a fragile population in terms of digital equity. So we worked with the health department and with HABC to, hopefully if you approve, expand 5 of their labs. So the HABC has labs on site, and 5 of them are in dire need of upgrading. So let me tell you a little bit about the grant that we received, the HRSA grant. It was for $2.3 million. It's a 4-year grant. And as I've said, one of our partners was the health department. The other partner was Pratt Library. And since 2003, my office has connected 8 senior centers to our public Wi-Fi network. We have deployed new laptops, tablets, and other equipment at those 9 senior centers. We have partnered with the Digital Harbor Foundation to have digital navigators support older adults at these locations. So, what you all can expect if you say yes. You can expect that these 5 labs, which are outdated, some of them, the equipment doesn't even work. You can expect brand new equipment in all of these labs. You can expect older adults will continue to be trained in any number of digital skills. And I want to highlight that the #1 indicator for closing the digital divide is internet adoption. So the more people are comfortable on the internet, the smaller that divide gets. And for older adults, it's a special challenge for them. So for us to use this funding to focus on older adults, for us, is a continuation of the great work we have already done. And I think I was under 3 minutes. Was I under 3 minutes? Do I get a prize for being the fastest?
Technically, Mayor Dixon was also 3 minutes.
Oh, gosh darn it. I was trying.
Great effort. We appreciate you being quick to the punch. All right, with that.
Oh, but you had a slide deck.
That's
right.
That's right. Okay. That's
Okay,
right.
I just want to make sure. All right.
Good point, yeah. And thank you to Sam for working the tech for us. Appreciate you.
I didn't have to do the tech today.
That's right. That's because Sam works for me and not for the mayor's team, so. But we appreciate you nonetheless.
Actually, this slide deck was managed by my deputy, Ms. Whitney Moret. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, look.
Sounds like the council president just volunteered to have a flag football team at the picnic.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
I agree.
Director, thank you for your work. Appreciate it. You know, this has been a personal issue for me since you came on in this role, as well as with your predecessor. Knowing that the digital divide has profound impacts on particularly children, but also, to your point, elders throughout the city of Baltimore, and knowing that we have an opportunity here in Baltimore to make meaningful progress to close it. We said during the pandemic, it's funny that we're all wearing masks again, we said during the pandemic that internet needs to be treated like any other utility. It should not be optional. We know that in the year 2026 of our Lord, that if you do not have internet, you are in big trouble.
Absolutely.
And so I appreciate the efforts that you've made in the direction of closing the digital divide. What's the plan to support HABC residents in this project beyond the access to equipment? Talk to me about training, technical assistance. You mentioned Digital Harbor and some other partnerships. Just talk through all of that which we are providing to support HABC.
So first and foremost, the basic component of this project is obviously the equipment. But through our partnerships, for instance, Digital Harbor Foundation has partnered with HABC to have digital navigators on site. Now, these navigators will float between the 5 locations. And what digital navigators do, it's a variety of supports. You can help, one example is to support a resident as they are trying to create a new email address. Another example would be to actually teach or instruct in a digital skill, like how to use Word, for instance. So there are a variety of supports that the digital navigators will provide. In addition, HABC has been a tremendous partner Just this week, actually yesterday, we did a kickoff of our new ISP project with HABC. And what we will be able to do, not only through that project are we providing gigabyte speeds at $20 per month to HABC residents, we are also providing free Wi-Fi in all of those locations. So in addition to the skills, we are ensuring that, number one, older adults have the devices. Number two, they have access to the fast, high-speed internet. And then number three, they have access to training and support for that training.
Understood. I know that digital navigators has been a concept that we've done, I'd say, on and off fleetingly at times in Baltimore City. Again, I want to give a lot of props to the Digital Equity Coalition, to Digital Harbor, to Mr. Coy, to all the different mesh networks that have been created, to all the coalition of folks that I saw really rally together, particularly during the pandemic,
Absolutely.
but that have remained steadfast in their commitment around this work. Other questions from the board? I know the mayor had some about this agreement.
Well, no questions, Kenya. I just thought it was a good opportunity for her to expand upon the great work that they've been doing. There's been a lot of deep partnership, not just with HABC, but other agencies and in community, and just wanted her to really lift up the impact, because I know after coming out of the pandemic and all of those things, the conversation around digital equity has gotten a little quieter from everybody outside of the folks that are in this room standpoint, and wanted to afford her the opportunity to talk about some of that deep work that has happened with the investments and the operations that she's lead.
So, for an example, through this initiative, we have already trained over 2,300 older adults in digital literacy skills. We have, through our sites, we have provided 147 wellness sessions across these 5 sites. Now, what that means is we have older adults who cannot physically make it to the doctor, or their physician has decided to practice telemedicine. So if an older adult has to have an appointment and they don't have the resources in their homes, or more importantly, they don't know how to use those resources, we now have locations across Baltimore City that can help them. This project will expand that beyond our senior centers, beyond our recreation centers, now at 5 of the HABC locations.
Great. Other questions from the board?
Make a motion to approve, Mr. President.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. This item is
Thank you.
approved. Thank you. The next item on the non-routine agenda is a request to approve an unauthorized procurement under SB 2514135. This request is to approve paying outstanding invoices with Demo USA Inc. for the Middle Branch Shoreline Cleanup. On behalf of procurement, we have Director Adam Manny. Director Manny, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Comptroller, honorable board members. Adam Manny, your Chief Procurement Officer. Before you today with an unauthorized procurement with a request to pay Demo USA a total sum of $131,856.75. Demo USA was the contractor that the city was using to clean the shoreline of the Middle Branch for city facilities. They did have a valid contract with the city. The city was working with Demo USA to renegotiate a new contract to bring forward to this board. As we were going through the negotiations, the services were continuing. It turned out that Demo USA, there were concerns with them meeting their small minority business goals. And after review by the Mayor's Office of Small Minority Business and Development, the internal stakeholders, Demo USA was not achieving those goals, nor were they getting close to them. Their original goals were 23% and 7%. I might have that wrong. 23% and 15%, they only achieved 7% out of the 23, with 0 on the other end. After an extensive investigation by SMB&D, it was determined it's in the best interest of the city not to continue, and we will be doing a new solicitation for these services, but we do want to pay them as a good business partner for the work that they did do while we were in negotiations.
Thank you, sir. Questions? Thank you, sir. Questions from the board? Comptroller, no. How will the new oversight structure under the Department of Planning and Office of Sustainability ensure that work only proceeds with proper approvals in place while improving project management, invoicing, and MBWBE compliance?
Well, I will ask Natalie Cohen from the Planning Office to come in. This is both planning, DPW, procurement doing for the city.
Yeah.
The standard policies and procedures do apply, sir, where we go through this. This is why they are required to report out wage to the Wage Commission if it's prevailing or living wage, why SMBAD does do its reviews. The same processes apply, but I'm not the expert on this, so I'll let Natalie speak on it.
Hi, good morning,
Natalie.
all. My name's Natalie Cohen. I'm the Reimagine Middle Branch Resiliency Manager. I'm with the Office of Sustainability, which is nestled within the Planning Department. I've been working closely with DPW for the past year and a half on this project, and as my role with the Office of Sustainability and a focus on Reimagine Middle Branch, I became the point person between Demo USA and DPW, and I was helping to facilitate the contract and the scope of work. It has become clear that there was capacity and oversight issues in the management of this contract, and things fell through the crack.
Yeah.
And so in conversations with DPW, and I'm actually going to meet with Mr. Garbark soon, we're imagining a future program that is managed by Department of Planning and the Office of Sustainability. We will have one point person, myself, that would be facilitating the contract and ensuring the scope of work and performance measures are being achieved as the contract states. We will be utilizing let me see, I have it written here. Moving forward, like I said, we'll have one dedicated manager. We'll be using smart sheets and the B2G to monitor SMB&D compliance. We will be having regular meetings with the future contractor and working closely with DPW to ensure all needs are being met. And we're really looking to expand upon this program. So right now, it's really just a simple remove X amount of trash from the water, but we're looking at this as an opportunity to pilot a more holistic, systems-wide approach where we're looking at data collection so we can actually identify hot spots of where stormwater outfalls are spitting out the most trash. We're going to be installing new interception devices, trash cages, trash floating, trash booms, and we'll be doing hopefully connections to workforce development as well, and partnering with a organization like Grow Home in South Baltimore to train workforce development participants in trash monitoring protocols and how to maintain these devices and ensure that we're removing as much trash from the Middle Branch as effectively as possible.
Thank you, Natalie. I appreciate it. Obviously, the interagency collaboration is going to be critically important on this.
Yes.
We've seen a ton of progress in the Middle Branch, just sustainability, our commitment to our waterways. As a city, we cannot grow and we cannot be great if we are not doubling and tripling down every chance we can get on the Middle Branch and all of our areas where conservation efforts are critically important. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate your work, and I am looking forward to seeing that interagency as well as with the Middle Branch Partnership collaboration take place. Again, it's going to require a high degree of coordination,
Absolutely.
and I will look forward to seeing that happen.
Yeah, thank you. Me too. Any other questions?
Questions from the board? Seeing and hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Item is approved. The next item on the non-routine agenda is a requested increase and renewal of a locksmith service contract under SB 25141132. On behalf of the Department of General Services, we have Deputy Chief of Administration. No, we don't.
We have a different formation this morning. Adam, do you want to start?
Nope, I will let you start. sir.
Okay. Good morning.
We got Mr. Burkay.
Good morning,
Mr. Burkay.
Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Comptroller. My name is Berke Atila, Director, Department of General Services. I have a presentation ready, and I have full staff to support this, but you know that we've been talking about this for a long time. I thought that it would be really good for me to offer some context as to what is it that we were trying to do, what happened, and why the increase and the decrease in the first place. So one of the things that DGS has been tasked to do by the City Administrator Leach is that since we are the major players when it comes to facilities, take ownership on all facilities-related matters and contracts in our hands, and to avoid that multiple different agencies come in before this board and asking for the similar services multiple times. So in that effort, consolidating the contracts, it requires a lot of search for past expenditures and projections into the future to put one contract together so that we do not cannibalize our work by putting limited dollars on the contract and not enough dollars left for other agencies to do their work. One item of interest that I think that for this board and everybody else to hear is when we put these contracts, and Adam can corroborate this, is not a commitment to spend the dollar. It's not because it's not widget purchases. It is procurement of services up to a authorized limit to be able to spend with them, but our actual budgets and the problems that are happening will actually define the total numbers that we'll be spending under that contract authority. This way, we thought that we would not only capture the previous spend and project appropriately into the future and have enough dollars in place so that we do not have to come to you for change orders as well. Within that effort, the first time we put this contract dollar effort, our assumptions were, I think, wrong, and that led to the 400% increase. But when it was pulled off the agenda and then deferred, we went back and revisited our assumptions and talked to our agency partners, and we realized that we could actually put a lower limit that is would be potentially safe for us to be able to have this contract for the duration of the time and the dollars that we don't have to come before you. So if we would like us to go through the presentation, we're happy to do so, but I wanted to first come up here and first own the situation and then thank everyone that has pointed out and worked with us to come to a better agreement. Right now, that with the City Administrator Leach's push, we're going to be trying to do this for any facilities contract. It could be carpeting, it could be lock, painting, any other agencies that might be using this, Rec and Parks, DOT, DPW, where they have their own facilities that they manage. Our task is to consolidate in one. We're not necessarily doing the work for them. We're happy to do it, but when it comes to putting the scope and the contract and the dollar values, we're going to be taking the lead. And hopefully, every contract thereafter will be tighter, better, more accurate. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have.
Thank you, Mr. Atila. I'm going to start out. As we discussed in several meetings over the last month or so, and as you explained here today, this contract now includes the locksmith services needed for all of the city agencies who use the service and not just for DGS. Is that a correct understanding of
that is correct.
Part of what happened?
Yes.
In terms of the number being larger than it has been historically.
Aggregation of all services into one contract rather than multiple contracts by agencies. That's the number one reason why the dollar's going up.
Understood. And the first version of this request to the board was a request for spend authorization over $3 million, but because we deferred this, you all discovered an accounting mistake, and now this request is for an authorization to spend less than $1.5 million. Is that also correct?
I would say the assumption in our projections mistake, that it could be, it's not a mathematical error, but when we looked at the past data for expenditures, we have actually probably aggressively projected that the future spend needs be. So when we came back and revisited with the conversations for what the true needs might be, that projections we realized it was an error, so we kind of toned it down, the assumption.
Can you explain why that error occurred?
I think that this is the first time we're trying to put the numbers for other agencies, and we obviously took it just upon ourselves, maybe over-projected our ability to be able to guess other agencies' needs by just looking at their historical spend. The lesson learned here is not just look at the data, and just work with the agencies. And I'll give you a simple example one might make in projections. If you look at salt purchases in September, and then you see half of a year that you almost spend entire thing, and then you project that you would need double the amount for the year, you might miss the point that you have purchased the entire salt for this year and there will be no expenditure. So we, not working directly with our agency partners, understanding the past expenditures, maybe some of the doors been locked, maybe major things have happened in that past. So we missed that part of early engagement with the agency partners. So we have since that tightened that up. So now in our future attempts to do this, we're just not going to do this in vacuum. We're just going to do it with our partners. So I think the assumption of that we could do this alone was the error in itself. We should have been more collaborative.
Understood. Mr. Attila, I have enormous respect for your professionalism. I see you as one of our real rock star city agency leaders.
I appreciate that.
And I will say I was surprised and disappointed by the amount of the error here. I also think this is why oversight matters. I appreciated the back and forth that my folks had with your folks, and then you and I ultimately were able to come to what I believe is the correct number here. I do also appreciate your word aggregation of the other contracts. I think consolidating and getting the best market value is always going to be important for the city. Again, I am glad we deferred this item and appreciate your commitment to getting it right at this meeting. Again, have always seen you as someone who is highly diligent, professional, and thoughtful in the work that you do. And if there is ever, and there will be, another instance where we are aggregating different contracts, whether it's around locks or some other thing that a bunch of different agencies need, it's my hope and expectation that on the front end, you'll have all those conversations with them.
Yes, sir.
So that we're not back into this place.
Yes, totally agree. And that's why I wanted to just come before and talk before my team to own as a DGS director that, ultimately, whatever happened is my responsibility. So I just wanted to come up and first say that. But also, the other important thing that, again, City Administrator Leach gave us the go-ahead to consolidate and have multiple meetings with other agencies who reside little or more in the facilities. My Deputy Director, Terrell Chesson, is actually working on that. So this will be a topic of lessons learned and how might we work together to ensure whenever these contracts come that we get the true engagement, and not that we didn't get true engagement from the agencies that know their needs, truly replicated and informed in our contract requests in the future. So.
Appreciate that. I see we have both City Administrator Leach and then Mr. Manny in line. Mr. Manny, yay, nay?
I'm just here in case there are any other questions.
Gotcha. Thanks, sir.
All right.
City Administrator.
Right behind.
Yes, good morning, Honorable Board, and Happy New Year. I just wanted to make a couple of points and clarify a few things regarding this contract in particular and the direction given to Director Attila. So Director Attila is right, and we're probably going to see a number of contracts come before the board where we are attempting to consolidate some of the management of facilities and certain contracts contracts into one centralized location where possible. Because the thing that we are seeing, and we see it through this board, is that DPW will have their own contracts, BPD might have a contract, and it's for the same service. And we do believe that there are some efficiencies that will be gained, as well as some cost savings by centralizing a lot of that work and management under DGS. So this locksmith contract is one example of a facilities contract that we are attempting to consolidate. The Director Attila spoke specifically about the role of his agency and some of the assumptions that they used when doing this consolidation. They were being data-driven and looking at the numbers to determine what they believe to be the max amount for the contract. A thing that I want to clarify, and I want to make sure that our audience and folks at home that are interested in this topic understand, is this wasn't what you saw before you wasn't the contract value, right? What we have in front of you is the upset limit, meaning that we as a city could spend up to $4 million on locksmith services. It was not saying that the city was going to spend $4 million for locksmith services. And so by making this adjustment and actually instead reducing the upset limit, so now we'll have that limit for agencies to then, as they need those services, to be able to draw down or leverage those services on that contract. If for whatever reason, some of the anomalies that occurred on the front end or previously with agencies occur, and now we're above that upset limit, we're going to have to come back to this board. So I just want to be clear that we were never saying we were going to spend $4 million. We said we want to have $4 million available in case any city agency that uses locksmith services will need to use those services off of this contract. What we've done is we've reduced the amount available to city agencies to use for locksmith services. So I just want to be clear about what this is versus what this is not.
Thank you, Madam City Administrator, and appreciate the clarification. I think folks, are very clear that this was about an upper limit. And I still think it is critically important that our projections are accurate or are as close to accurate as is humanly possible. And while I don't want to quibble back and forth about it, your point is taken that this was not the contract itself. This was you said upset limit?
Yes.
I was going to use the word upper limit, but nevertheless, this was as high as they could go. And yet, and still, it was off by a significant amount of money. I think both things. Hang on. I think both things are true in this case. And again, your point is received that this was not the actual contract, but any dollars that we put aside is dollars taken out of the pot. And so I think both parts are important.
Yes. So again, the point here being, so I think the way I would describe it, and again, we don't have to. This is what it is, right? And if we need to come back to the board to increase the upset limit because we've maxed out, then we'll have to do that, because that is the whole purpose, is to say we don't want to have to come back to the board until we have reached that max limit. We've now reduced that, and we've now said instead of $4 million, it's going to be 1.5 or whatever the new amount is. But I want to again be clear: we won't actually know until we actually use the services. If the max was, if what was needed was 1.5, or whether it was 2 or 2.5, and of course it's going to differ depending on year, depending on things that occur. And so the methodology that DGS used was a methodology that was based on previous performance and previous usage of locksmith services. There were anomalies in the usage of those past services. And instead, they had a conversation with agencies to say, Rec and Parks, in FY 23 or 24, you doubled your use of locksmith services. What happened in that year? Instead of them just looking at the data on their own to make the assumption. And then from there, they said, you know what, it's okay for us to reduce the upset limit and see if we actually need 1.5 or would we need 2.5. So I think there are going to be opportunities for learnings about consolidation and the process by which whenever we centralize contracts from this locksmith contract. And I do want to acknowledge and appreciate you, Mr. President, for raising this, which caused DGS to look closer at, Matt, to look closer at their methodology to say, you know what, instead of just using the data that we gleaned about past performance, let's have a conversation to ensure that we are also assessing and including anomalies in that. So I do want to acknowledge that and thank you for that. But again, I want to be clear, and I know that you are clear about what the upset limit is. I'm not sure that everyone was clear about that, and so I just want to make sure that our viewers and our residents at home are very clear about this contract, and again, appreciate your efforts here.
Understood. And again, appreciate, I do think that your points around consolidation are well taken. I do think that as a city, it is ridiculous and frustrating when we have multiple agencies utilizing multiple contracts. We see cost overruns. We limit the power of our dollar when everybody's doing their own thing. So I do appreciate what you, city administrator, have mandated folks to do in partnership with the Department of General Services. I think it is the right direction. And again, we will continue to do that oversight and make sure the assumptions are within a reasonable range. I think as we move in this direction, as folks see the numbers getting bigger because they will represent multiple agencies consolidating together, again, it's going to be important that we are close, we're right, we're within a range for any of these contracts. Mr. Manny, I see you getting more and more proximate to the mic. Mr. Mayor, you want to jump in, and then we'll go straight to Mr. Manny.
No, thank you, Mr. President. And I just wanted to go a little deeper and really put a pin in the points that you and the city administrator and that Berkay raised. We're talking about efforts that we've been ongoing to make sure that many of the things that we all inherited, a whole bunch of agencies having different contracts with different people for the same thing, there being no uniformity in how those things are done. These are the kind of efforts that we're undertaking, but I think and they're very important, right? And I won't reiterate anything that anybody's already said and how we got to this point, and we're thankful for everyone's work. But what I will raise is that also we know in the past this kind of effort, right, that we have laid out for all our agencies has really been a hot button political item. And what we have to do, in addition to the key oversight that you, the comptroller, the council folks have to do, this board has to do, we also have to push back against sometimes the Baltimore political will to keep doing things the same way versus changing and modernizing and moving in the right direction. And I appreciate you and the comptroller for your willingness to do that on many things over and over again as we all work towards making sure we have the best government possible. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manny?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate all your work on this and your staff in catching this, because projecting is incredibly important, especially as we go through. I just did want to clarify on one thing that you said is, when the board is approving this contract and you're approving that spend limit, that is not the actual funds. When the contract is approved, when an agency goes in to use their funds, they spend down that authority, but the funding comes from their budget. So, for example, DGS or my office couldn't go in and say, I'm going to try and encumber all $4 million or $1 million if my budget only allows $50,000. There is the budgetary control for the actual spend.
Understood.
The limit you're setting is saying for the city, this is what we're authorizing you to do. If you need more, you have to come back to us and tell us. But the actual spend comes out of each agency's budgeted and appropriated amounts.
Adam, if I may, also just speaking from an earlier budget analyst and a finance alumni, the term that we use, that the dollars will only be set aside and encumbered once we put a requisition or an expenditure against that authority. So that whatever the dollar value on the contract, it does not necessarily set aside funds or lock them down. It will only be when we ping it for $1 million, and until the invoice is paid, that gets locked down. So I understand that is a very important distinction for those that maybe listening to us. I just wanted to ensure that we could put a spend limit, but it does not put those monies under encumbrances until the actual work is put into the contract.
Understood and received, both of you. Mr. Manny, perhaps if you could, just the flip side of that, though, for the viewing audience, why is it important that we not, even when we're setting an upset or an upward limit, that we not set a limit that is excessively high? What are the downsides for the city in doing that? And again, I think the point has been thoroughly made here today that this was not an actual contract. This was about establishing a limit. But if you could.
Sure. One, for budget projections.
Yeah.
It does help when we're looking at budget projections that we understand what we're trying to spend our money on and what our estimate we think are going to happen. The downsides, fiscally, again, because it's controlled through the budget, aren't as many, but it comes across, as your office pointed out, there's a perception that we are not actually doing our due diligence to get a true number of what we estimate to spend when we're going for our contracts. This board, the policy is you like to assign a value to those contracts, and then we draw down based upon the agency's budgets. If the board changes, the mayor said, changing how we do business, this could be what we would consider an IDIQ contract, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, where we don't know how much we're going to spend, but we can only spend whatever's budgeted and appropriated, where the contract itself would have zero value, but the board would approve the labor rates, the costs, and everything of that sort. We are not there yet. It is something that in the future I would like to bring forward to the board. I don't think we're necessarily there yet from a procurement point or an organizational point. But again, the downsides are we're not projecting what we estimate our actual spend is going to be. But in reality, again, fiscally, we can only spend what the board and the council has budgeted and appropriated for us. So it's both ways.
Understood. I will just say that perception piece is a valuable commodity in a moment where faith in public institutions is not good. We want to be a city where, as I said earlier, the perception that Baltimore is winning, not just on the really, really big things like reducing homicides, but on what would be considered things that folks may be less concerned about in their day-to-day lives, like a contract for locks and for locksmithing, that we're also getting those things right. To the mayor's point, addressing some of the challenges of changing entrenched patterns within bureaucracies is hard. And I say that with enormous love and respect for all of our colleagues that work within city agencies who show up every day for this city. But it's hard to change behavior. It's hard to encourage a higher level of collaboration. And it's extremely important that we get it right, because the public has to trust our analyses, our projections, our ability to do the math up and down every single time.
100% agree with you, sir. Perception is reality.
That is correct. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Manny. I appreciate it. Any other? Nope. Hearing? Oh, Mr. Okay. I got a heck no from the comptroller. All right. All those in favor of approving this item, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The item is approved. The next item on the non-routine agenda is a request to approve an agreement with Atkins Retail Lists USA, Inc., under SB 2514-324. The agreement is for $11 million for a period of 3 years. Mr. Robinson, you are back up.
Yes, good morning again, Honorable Board. Alan Robinson, Deputy Director for the Department of Public Works. We are here to discuss, as you stated, sir, SB 2514-324. This is an agreement with Atkins Realist USA for an upset limit of $11 million. This is a request to approve this for work that is associated to support our sanitary sewer modified consent decree, our wastewater facilities consent decree, and other environmental programs. And this is a regulatory process that we're utilizing their services to support us in. To help us discuss this today, I do have behind me our Bureau Head, Mr. Steve Sharkey, and I believe we do also have our Deputy Bureau Head, Mr. Paul Sayin here, and Mr. Mike Hallman as well, to discuss any questions that you may have around the purpose of this particular contract, but it is part of our regulatory assignment. This was part of a much larger program that we've had in the past where we had it assigned to one agency, AECOM, for roughly about $45 million that we decided to break up into 4 smaller agreements so that we could spread the work and have a little bit more flexibility in how we are assigning tasks. But to speak to that, again, I am going to turn it over to Mr. Steve Sharkey, who's standing right behind me.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Steve Sharkey, Bureau of Water and Wastewater, DPW. Thank you so much. So wanted to just, again, as we were talking about the previous contracts, which Mr. Manny and Mr. Attila so eloquently stated, these are upset limits. These are not the amounts that will be spent at the end. So these contracts will have individualized tasks which will come before the board and be approved before the board for each individualized tasks. These are specialized types of jobs or studies, analyses that we contract out to engineering and architecture firms. So this is not just an everyday thing. These are specialized works that, as the need arises, which we do have large needs as being $1 billion engineering agency, come up, we put those out there. So that's sort of the larger context and picture of what these contracts will do. And so happy to also, I know the comptroller's got questions. I know he'll go with that. Deputy Director, anything else before? And I have answers to your questions, but I'll let you.
James Sharkey, Mr. Comptroller.
Oh, well, sorry. I know. Sorry. Apologize.
The Director wanted to.
Yeah.
Director Garbar.
Yes, can you talk about how this was segmented into 4 different contracts? It was unbundled essentially from a larger $44 million into 4 different contracts.
Yeah, this was a large AECOM contract for multiple dollars, AECOM being the largest contractor in the world. Having 4 contractors come, or consultants come at one point in time, allows us a lot more flexibility, especially to choose if a particular firm has a specialty. So if somebody is really great at wastewater treatment, or if somebody is really great at water treatment, or whatever other piece. We have many scientific and engineering analyses needed. So there's a lot of subspecialties, and we can rely on whichever firm can provide that over time as the needs arise over the next 3 to 5 years.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garbar. Thank you, Mr. Garbar. Comptroller Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. So I think actually the only question I have is to drill a little bit into the fact that this is very specialized work, where I just want to make the distinction between specialized one-time work and specialized work that we always need done. And I have no issues with the city contracting out for specialized one-time work. We do especially contracts for IT when we need somebody to come in and build us a database we don't necessarily, like each individual agency doesn't need somebody who can do that work in-house full-time forever. But my question is, when you say that this is specialized, how much of this contract is for work that we will need to do or need to have done year after year?
So only a small percentage, but can I just mention, so this is for the OEC division, the Office of Engineering and Construction. So we have engineers, constructions, inspectors. So I've been looking overall over the past year at...
And say that again? Engineers?
Engineers, inspectors, construction inspectors.
Oh, inspectors. Okay, that was,
sorry.
okay. I was like, I heard inspectors, and I was very concerned for a
making
second.
up new words as we go
Okay, all right, okay. Yeah,
So
okay.
engineers, inspectors. So looking at this division, there are a certain number of roles and people that we have had in contractor positions for a long time.
Right.
So what I've done is we've really pushed very hard to close all vacancies. Now, we have not closed all yet. We've got about 10 left. We've taken about 15 off the books in the last year. I really want to get the last ones closed. That has probably taken about 10 folks off the books in terms of contractors. We have also, as we close the next 10 or so, 8 to 10, that will also take 8 to 10 more contractors off the books. Maybe 2 board meetings ago, we also created a new position for project controls analyst. That is a person that really goes in deep with a computer and a software program to analyze project schedules and data going along with individual projects. We've created an in-house classification that will allow us to start hiring into that position. So that's not going away. We want to, over time, over the next 3 to 5 years, transition more and more project controls in-house. So we are looking at the things that we believe we can do or should do in-house so that we don't have a guy that's here for 20 years and is a contractor but is really our employee.
Yes.
And so it's not going to be perfect, but over the next years, it will continue to grow, and we will, for those continual, long-needed jobs, work to bring that in-house as much as possible.
I appreciate you anticipating my concerns. And I'm fortunate to have the opportunity to quote the mayor when I talk about the importance of not continuing to do the same thing that we've always done. I look up around this room at the portraits of the 10 mayors of my lifetime and the 6 that I've worked in this building with. I guess that's not fair. I didn't work in this building for O'Malley. I spent that one in exile. But when I first came to City Hall, there were a lot more engineers who worked for the city in DPW that were actual city employees. And now there are disturbingly few who are actual city employees and not contractors. And the concern I have with that is if you are paying an outside contractor for an employee, that means you are able to afford to pay that employee what they feel is a reasonable salary and still pay overhead and profit to the private company. And so when I hear offhand comments about we can't afford to have people do this work full-time for the city, I know that's not true. I know that what we have done, either passively or actively, is we have decided we don't want to pay individual employees at that salary level when we can instead pay a large contract. And so I'm not here to vote against this contract, but I am here to continue to, push for HR and finance and the various agencies to work together to create the salary ranges and the classifications that we need to actually hire talent that we need in-house, rather than continuing to, before I say the words waste money, I want to make a distinction. Earlier this morning, we made a conscious decision to do this PLA, which probably will mean spending extra money on some contracts, but that money is an investment in building a skilled workforce for Baltimore. And I don't mind paying more money if Baltimore is getting more out of it. That's why the mayor, the council president, and I have all been advocates of best value contracting. It's not like low bid doesn't have to be the best thing in the world. The best thing in the world is getting the best deal. And I just believe philosophically and financially, we need to be doing more to bring the work that Baltimore needs done in-house where it can be provided the most effectively and the most efficiently.
Yeah, before allowing the administrator to respond, I'm just going to concur and double down on the sentiment my colleagues expressed. This has been a persistent conversation since I've been on this board and for a long time in Baltimore is the value of cultivating our own workforce and investing our precious, precious dollars into not only the value that we accrue from whatever the service is, but into making sure Baltimoreans, folks who are part of our city government, are able to benefit as well. And it is not a zero-sum proposition. I think everyone up here is clear, Madam CA and others, that there are cases in which contractors make sense. And that's a direction where we have to go. But I think the push that we're going to continue to have is the not either or, but the both and of we need to start tilting the scale more in the direction of building up our own internal capacity, building up our own, there was a conversation a couple, maybe months ago about, well, we can't get this position because we don't have anyone with the skills or education to do it. And I get that, but that cannot continue to be a reason. We have to train folks. We have to align. We talked about the work that you've done with HBCUs in engineering. We have to continue to invest, just like we are doing in providing the service, in the human capacity of the people that live and work in this city. With that, I know you want to respond.
Yes, absolutely. Mr. Comptroller, Mr. Council President, I agree. You and I have had this conversation about engineers and specifically for at least 2 years now, and you are totally spot on and you're totally right about the fact that we need to do more to create a pathway and opportunities to hire our own residents into these roles. A very funny story that happened just sometime this week. I think we were in the city stat room and we were talking specifically about DPW and water and wastewater, and I can't remember who it was. It may have been somebody from BBMR that made a comment about having a conversation 10 years ago about some of the needs within water and wastewater as far as the talent, and how there was a flag that was waved 10 years ago, and we're now paying for the lack or the inaction of 10 years ago as far as having to, fill these roles with contractors. And so I think to just talk a little bit about the steps that we're taking, because I do think it's important that, the inaction of however many years ago in water and wastewater has led to where we are, to where we now can't afford not to have outside contractors because we are in a consent decree that we can't get out of until we have the right certified workforce in place. And of course, we need to be in compliance. And of course, we need to be producing the best and highest quality water for our residents and the other users of our system. But to that point, what we celebrated here a month or two ago when we introduced the new scales for AFSCME is exactly what we are doing. So 3-4 years ago, we set about a process in the mayor's first term to go and to look at our salary scales and to go through a process to modernize those salary scales. And so several years later, here we are, where this board approved the updated scales for AFSCME, and fingers crossed, very soon we'll be doing the same thing for CUB. We'll have to go through a process, a similar process for MAPS, which is where the engineers will be located. It's our professional class. Of course, we wanted to start with our lowest paid workers. We'll also have to think through our public safety skills as well. But that modernization process can take a couple of years, but I want you to know that I am very much committed to going through that the modernization of our wage scales for all of our unions, and including MAPS, which we're not quite there yet. But I think it's critically important, especially for roles like the engineers. And we know our engineer ones, engineer twos, they're not comparable to where they are in the market. And so now we have to go through this extensive internal process to try to raise the wage to increase, get some of those employees when we really just need a new scale that actually speaks to the amount that we need to hire those folks. So I just wanted to say that publicly that I agree, and that's the process that we're going through by modernizing our salary scales, and we will get to our the MAP scales as well, which is where we will be addressing the engineers. And in the interim, we'll have to make hard decisions, but we will also do the due diligence, I will say, of not going to contractors as the first line of defense or the first response. If there are opportunities for us through our internal process to figure out how to reclassify, maybe we're hiring more engineer twos or the higher level of engineers, or even adjusting the requirements for an engineer two, because we need to be able to recruit folks. So I think we'll find creative ways while we go through the process of modernizing our skills.
Appreciate that. Without going too deep down this rabbit hole, but I think it's relevant. We had talked, CA, in a budget negotiation a couple of years back about housing inspectors and the sort of perpetual problem of not enough of them and not paying them enough. And if I look around and I see other jurisdictions paying more and potentially a safer environment to inspect, I'm going to leave. And so we're sort of racing to the bottom. That one specifically, I know this is, we're talking about engineers, so again, I don't want to get too far afield, but just, is there an update on?
I think, if I am not mistaken, I think they are CUB.
Yeah.
I think they're CUB, so that means that their schedule, they are getting, as a part of all of the CUB employees, will be getting updated scales. So we're doing AFSCME, all CUB this year, and while we then go through a process where we look at MAPS and then also revisit the public safety wage scales. And of course, all of this has to be negotiated, but they should be getting the updated salaries as a part of CUB, which should be coming after the negotiation, which will come to the board, and we're trying to, of course, get that done as soon as possible. But I'll follow up offline, and I will let you know what the range is in the new scales.
I appreciate that. In anticipation of the upcoming budget season, would very much like update understanding the moving target of negotiations.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. President?
Mr. Garbark?
Yeah, I don't want to speak too long, but I just want to make one point about this contract in particular. 100% agree with everything that's been said. This contract is part of a set that really provides technical services. So some of the things that they do is advise on the lead and copper rule, which is a federal rule. We've created a really remarkable modeling system for that has been approved by the Department of the Environment. Through these contracts, we were able to get nationally recognized firms to come in and help us with that. We've also been able to get national trainers and speakers as part of our small business development program. So these really are for specialized services that are beyond. I completely agree with everything that's been said, but these are for specialized services for things that we need to get a national attention and national recognition and really reach out across the country to get those expert services.
Understood. I think what you're hearing, what we've discussed over and over is we want to get to a day where we are not in this position where we continuously say we can't do that here in Baltimore. There's expertise, there's knowledge, there's whatever. Like that should, given the density of academic institutions in this town, given the smarts, the talent, the chutzpah, the creativity that we have in Baltimore, I think for the comptroller, myself, mayor, everybody, we want to be in a place where we're not continuously doing this, even when it is, to your point, very much a issue of knowledge specialization. It's a federal requirement. Got it. And we need to make sure we're training our own folks to be part of that pipe.
100% agree.
Thank you, Mr. Garbark, Sharkey. Do you want anything else, Mr. Robinson? Great. Okay, hearing and seeing no further questions, I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving this item, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. This item is approved. The final item on the non-routine agenda is a request to note a Fifth Amendment to an emergency agreement with Garney Companies, Inc. under SB 251433. On the behalf of the Department of Public Works, we have Deputy Director Alan Robinson. Director Robinson, the floor is yours.
So again, good morning, Honorable Board. Alan Robinson, Deputy Director for the Department of Public Works. We are here to talk about SB 2514333, which is the Fifth Amendment. It was noted in the opening statement by the clerk that there were some updates to the board memo on this. So I want to reiterate some of those. One, I just want to talk about what this emergency contract was for. The purpose of the agreement was to repair and replace the 108-inch brick masonry storm drain at Tiffany Run that had significant partial failure, which compromised the surrounding area. So this is Montebello. Everyone was familiar with the work that was done there. This is not seeking any new or additional funding from the board. This is just to note the funding that had already been expended and the work that had been completed. All right. So one of the things we did recognize that in the original board item, it did state that this was at $3,038,763, when it should have read $30,387,638.93, which was the final cost of the project. We do want to note that the final cost of the project was $671,000 less than the authorized amount of $31 million. But moreover, we just wanted to recognize that this was a notation rather than an approval because of the emergency authorization process. But I do have, well, again, Bureau Head Steve Sharkey, as well as our Deputy Bureau Heads who are overseeing the project, can talk to answer any technical questions that you may have around that. But
Mr. Comptroller?
Yeah. First, thank you, Mr. President. First, I just want to add additional clarification that it's literally a typo. There is one digit missing in the original board memo, so it had nothing to do with a difference of recognition of the amount. It was just a typo. The thing I wanted to check in on is this is a notation of the Fifth Amendment of an emergency procurement. The previous 4 amendments to the emergency procurement were also done as emergency procurements?
Yes.
Is this the first time this has come to the board for notation?
I will say, unfortunately, yes,
Okay.
by my understanding. And this was a procedural issue that we have identified internally, and we put checks and balances in place to ensure that this does not occur again. This project did start back during COVID, and that there were some issues in notifying who was responsible for the notification. During that time, there was a lot of transition in various offices. And so once we actually established some stability in our procurement office, there have been some checks and balances put into play as far as SOPs and other policy documents that are put into play to make sure that we do not let this slide again, and that we will make sure that every time there is an emergency authorization, that it is noted timely with the board.
Within 30 days is the timely
Yes, that is the
definition that we have in our, is it 30 or 45?
I believe it's 30 as well as what I read, but that's what we're working
Is it 45?
It's 45. It's 45.
It's 45. It's 45. Okay.
The city administrator is seconding that it's 45.
I'm happy to say, okay, 45. Oh.
Sorry.
Well,
So just to,
Yeah,
just to
as long as it's
clarify,
under a year.
I'm sorry, I was actually just reviewing the board memo that we're going to send out to agencies, which is why I knew it was 45. But what we noted, I think what we had agreed to initially, and then I'll also go back and confirm, is that it has to come back to the board to be, is it noted?
Yeah.
And then there's like a full explanation. I think something about, you might recall, Celeste. It's two steps, technically.
Sorry to jump in, but part of the importance of coming back to the board to be noted is also to produce that contract as part of the board records, so that we also keep that contract in perpetuity. So that's all part of the process.
Yes, I think, but I'll go back and review the resolution, but I think there is a two-step process where we, after an emergency procurement occurs, then we put it into the system within 30 days, and then it has to be noted by the board within 45. So there is a 30-day requirement within the resolution.
And that was part of the concern because either the third and fourth or fourth amendments to this did come after the new process started for emergency procurements. So we got to see when the director of finance had approved them, that showed up in Workday and we saw it. But the Fifth Amendment came to the board for notation before those.
Got it.
And so that's sort of wanted to check in on, was this supposed to be all of them? Or are we going to now at some point in the future note earlier ones? Because that feels weird.
Mr. President?
Yeah, Mr. Garbar.
Yeah, this is for the entire contract.
Okay.
So the upset limit, so what's fairly unique here is most of the time emergency procurements are for the procurement of some immediate service where you know the dollar amount, you pay it. This is a capital project. This essentially is what would have been a capital project being done as an emergency. So it started off, there was an 18-month period of time. We originally valued it at about $10 million. As you saw in the pictures that came out, it got worse and worse and worse. So we kept extending it and adding more money. And what happened during this process, as the administrator mentioned, as you mentioned, some of the amendments got into this process. The original ones were 5 years old and didn't. This is everything. This is the final project.
Mr. Comptroller?
So just to be clear, each of the previous amendments was nothing other than raising the upset
Yes, sir.
limit. And so since they're cumulative, by noting this fifth one, we are effectively noting the project to date.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I need. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Garbar?
One other point I really want to make, I mentioned it last year when I had the privilege of standing where Mr. Robinson stood during our water rate.
Well, not all of where Mr. Robinson stands.
Vertically, yes.
You stood in like that.
Not in the air, not in the airspace, yes. This is a $30 million project. It is an emergency project, meaning it was not budgeted. The entire stormwater operating budget for fiscal '25 was $75 million. This is 42%. This one project is 42% of the entire budget for stormwater. This, I think, highlights the points that this board was making earlier, the need for trained workers, the need for really broadening our workforce, because these issues are going to come faster and worse and are going to continue as our infrastructure ages and the climate continues to change.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing and seeing none, I will note this item. Mr. Mayor?
Mr. President, I just wanted to take a moment of personal privilege to point out something, that a group has been reunited in the BOE room. You know, we used to have multiple Emily reporters in Baltimore. We know one Emily returned back to Baltimore that worked for you. So the band is back together. That's all I wanted to say.
We're still missing.
There's one missing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'll see her in a few minutes if you guys want.
We appreciate all the Emilys for their commitment to our city, including present company. As there is no more business before the board, we will now adjourn this meeting. The next regular meeting of the BOE will occur on Wednesday, January 21st, 2026 at 9 a.m. I thank everyone for participating and tuning in.
All right, everybody.
Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies for getting a little bit of a late start today. Welcome to the Board of Estimates bid opening for January 7th, 2026. It looks like we have a couple of addenda for me to share today, and we're opening 5 bids. So the first addenda to share is Rec and Parks, RP 21832 for Morrell Park Fieldhouse. This solicitation will now be opened on January 21st, 2026. And procurement has RFQ 000773, Underground Utility Locating Services. This solicitation will be opened on the 21st of January also. And bear with me, I'm lingering cold symptoms that I'm going to try not to interrupt this procedure with today. Up first, we have Recreation and Parks, RP 22808 for Leakin Park Athletic Field improvements. Hang on just a second, Case. I think we have 4 bidders for this, looks like.
That's my understanding as well.
Okey doke. And
Right.
this is RP 22808.
That's correct.
Okay.
The first bid is received is from Warren Builds. Warren, like my cat, Builds.
B-U-I-L-T?
B-U-I-L-D-S.
Okay. Got it.
We have a signed bid bond.
May I have a copy, please?
I have the original and a clearly marked duplicate.
One original, thank you. One clearly marked duplicate. And then Warren Bills.
The total bid is $6,001,192.00.
Okay, that number was 6,001,192.00.
Correct.
Okay. There isn't a copy of the signed bond here, but you have a signed. Okay. Here is, oh, there, is that it? There's some loose pages here. I can't tell what they are, but they're semi-fastened.
Okay.
Okay.
The next one, next bid received for RP 22808 is from P. Flanagan and Sons Incorporated.
Thanks.
I have the original in front of me. It has a signed bid bond. And the total base bid is $6,892,000.00.
That number was 6,892,000.00. So that was P. Flanagan and Sons, $6,892,000. And yes, you had a signed bid bond.
Yes. Okay. The next bid received is from W.M. Slosher Company Incorporated.
Thanks.
It has a signed bid bond. And the total base bid is $7,322,000.00.
That number was 7,322,000.00.
Correct.
And we have one dupe, one original, and a signed bid bond. That was W.M. Schlosser Company, Inc. for $7,322,000.
Okay. And the last one is from Banneker THG, JV LLC.
Thanks. I have it on page 56.
Yeah, sorry, the wrong page was marked. Yeah, I have a signed bid bond.
Okay.
And a total base bid of $7,033,618.00.
Okay, that number was 7,033,618.00.
Correct.
So that bidder was Banneker THGJV LLC for $7,033,618.00. Thank you. And that was our final of 4 bids. Sorry, I'm super slow today. So that was our final of 4 bids for RP 22808 Leakin Park Athletic Field improvements. Up next, we have a bid for DGS. This is PRJ 003048 City Hall Tunnel Waterproofing Design. That's important because Bill Park's on the other side of the tunnel.
This is important to keep our elected officials dry.
That's right.
The first bid received is from Kelly's Trucking LLC.
Okay. Thank you. Did this one require a bond?
Yes, it should.
Yeah, I think I see this one's copied.
You can just edit the.
Well, I don't have a signed one in the copy, but you have a signed.
Oh, look. Right there. Yep, I have a signed bid bond. Oh yeah, this bond. It says it right there.
Okay. Do you have the total?
Yeah, sorry. I thought
Page?
we were just talking about the bond.
Oh, no. The totals page isn't marked. I was just
It's
making sure I looked at the right page.
Give me a minute.
There's a set of drawings. For which ones are those? Oh, they can stay there.
The total page is on page 75. It is the same. It's a cover sheet.
Oh, okay, got it.
This is a.
Sorry, I was almost there. Oh, well, wait a
Every capital
second.
bid is just so slightly different where
Okay,
everything is
so
put.
I
So
don't
this-
have a page 75. I have page 79.
Okay.
Hang on. one sec.
On page 75, I can read the total bid.
Okay. Go ahead.
$930,000 and 0 cents.
Okay, let me look for that in here so I can confirm. I am so sorry, but I'm going to have to go page by page.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm on page 79 again. Let me keep going just to see if somewhere there is a totals page hiding in this copy. It's not a totals page. Yeah, that's the bond. This just adds to the excitement. Okay, we're gonna let DGS figure that out. I cannot confirm against a total in the copy because I can't find the total in this copy, but I'm gonna read the number back to you, 930,000.00.
That's correct.
Okay, so that was Kelly's Trucking LLC for $930,000. And I'm gonna make a note. Okay. And next.
The second bid for PRJ 003048 is Restoration East LLC. We have a total bid bond, but please note we also have received a check.
Oh.
Directly.
So there's no bond, there's a check?
There is a bond, and there is a check.
Yes, there's a bond, and, okay, what is the, I think we usually put the check amount in, right?
Yeah, $100.
Thank you. Oh, okay, so that's not a check we have to note. That's not one that spends time with Treasury. We shall note that your debt has been paid.
We were noting that we're
And
going to hand the
pass
check
that check
directly to our friends in General Services.
Okay.
The total bid amount is $1,417,000 $1,800.
Okay, that number was 1,417,800.00.
Correct?
And the check was for,
$100 for bid books, and I'm still gonna ask Tawanda to work with GGS on a receipt process, so we just make sure this.
okay. And I'm gonna,
Check
you're
doesn't
gonna
get
see it on the
lost in the
sheet when
bin.
I post these, which might look odd. We usually don't know that, but I didn't want to lose track that you gave us a check. Okay, so that was Restoration. Yeah, Restoration East, $1,417,800.
Super.
So that was our final of two bidders for DGS's PRJ 003048. Sorry, Casey, I didn't give this back to you in time. PRJ 003048 City Hall Tunnel Waterproofing Design.
Okie dokie.
Up next, I know I'm like on slow-mo today. Up next, for Public Works, we have SC 995 Macoma Street Pumping Station upgrades.
Yep, and we have one bid received from WM Slosher Company Incorporated.
Thank you.
I have the original in front of me. I have a signed bid bond.
Yep.
All right.
What page do you see the total on?
It's gonna be 91.
Oh, it's 91, okay.
It's page 91, as you can see, it says total bid. All right, and on page 91, the total bid is $5,488,000.00.
That number was 5,488,000.00.
Correct.
That bidder was WM Schlosser Company, Inc. for $5,488,000. And that was our only bidder for SC 995M McComas Street Pumping Station upgrades. Up next for procurement, we have RFQ 000759 for fire protection services.
Okay. Sorry. That's not who's submitting it. It's that name of the firm, that area.
That's why, that's the way he had it on the cover is
Yeah.
JCI.
Just make sure you check next time, because that's a stupid guy's name. Okie dokie. First one is from Johnson Controls.
Okay, hold on.
Fire
I'm gonna remove
Protection
this.
LP. Yep.
Okay, I'm removing this person's name. Johnson Controls.
Yes. Johnson Controls Fire Protection LP.
Oh, Fire Protection LP. LLP?
LP.
LP. Got it.
I have one original, one flash. I have, one original, one flash drive, and two duplicates.
Clearly marked duplicates? And this would not involve a bond.
No bond. Can you are those clearly marked?
Well, not really. Not really, but we can treat them like copies.
We'll just hand the whole package back to procurement because the document is not marked original or duplicate.
Okay.
And the total amount is $757,900.00.
That number was 757,900.00.
That's correct.
That bidder was Johnson Controls Fire Protection LP for $757,900.
And we received 3 originals. They're not marked duplicate,
Yeah, okay, I gotcha.
despite having a handy box that says, mark as original or duplicate here.
Okay, and I made a note that we referred them all to the agency. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Okay, the next one is from Platinum Fire Services LLC.
You said Platinum?
Yes.
Okay, let me get this typo.
You can spell PLATINUM.
Okay.
I have a copy in front of me.
I have 2, but they are not clearly marked.
Okay. So we have 3 originals.
Because we're being sticklers. The flash drive.
And 1 flash drive.
Thank you.
And the total bid price is $558,825. And
That number was 558,825.00. That bidder was Platinum Fire Services for $558,825. And we will be indicating that we don't have clearly marked duplicates, so we'll be referring all copies to the agency. And that was our final of 2 bidders for RFQ 000759 Fire Protection Services. And our last opening today is for procurement, RFQ 000762. This is for medical supplies.
okay. I have original in front of me, submitted by Life Assist, and I'll give you the 2 marked copies.
Assist, A-S-S-I-S-T. Thank you.
And I have a flash drive.
Clearly marked copies, thank you.
Thank you. I'm assuming this isn't a lump sum. You guys know? Yep, thought so. It's medical supplies, so.
Yeah, it's all, so this
Cost
is itemized,
this.
we're not gonna be,
Itemized, so it's just itemized, so we're just gonna read
Okay.
that we got it from Life Assist Incorporated.
okay. So, folks, when you see this tab sheet, you're just gonna see itemized in the totals, because there is no total. Pardon me. So that bidder was Life Assist Incorporated.
Okay, next up is from First Needs Medical LLC. I have an original with a original with a flash drive, and 2 clearly marked duplicates.
Thank you.
And
this
it's
is not
First-
gonna be different, it should
it's
be
First
itemized.
Needs Medical LLC.
Yeah. This is itemized, and that responder, that bidder was First Needs Medical LLC. Thanks. And I think we have one more, yes?
Okie dokie. The last bid is from R&D Hauling LLC. I've received 1 original, no duplicates, and no flash drive.
Okay. Do we have itemized pricing?
And, yeah, there's no bid. It's total, just itemized.
Okay. Okay, and that bidder was R&D Hauling LLC hyphen Medical Supply. So I'm going to repeat the bidders for this one. And again, this was an itemized bid, so we don't have a total to provide. But the three bidders were Life Assist Inc., First Needs Medical LLC, and R&D Hauling LLC Medical Supply. And this was for RFQ 000762, Medical Supplies. And that was our final of 5 bid openings for today. Our next bid opening is on, thank you, because I keep wanting to say the 17th, and that is wrong. Our next bid opening is on January 21st, 2026. Happy New Year, everyone, and thank you for tuning in.